You've seen them, those bright and fleeting little streaks in the sky. Most of the time, they're harmless. Sometimes they're devastating. Just ask the dinosaurs. That is, if you still could. What are those objects that fall to the earth? Where do they come from? Are they really a threat? Should you worry when you go to sleep tonight from these threats from space? Next, we'll discuss the nature of these visitors from the solar system. Stay tuned. Our discussion of the generic term meteors will focus on three specific names: meteor, meteorite, and meteoroid. We will focus on meteorites the most, those that survive to the ground. There are three main types of meteorites. Our first is iron. It is the least common of the types, but the easiest to find. They originate from differentiated parents. They are mostly iron rather than a more diverse mixture of elements. Why are they easiest to find? First, its appearance is very different from typical Earth rocks, so it stands out. It also has a very unique pattern when etched. Lastly, it's easily found with metal detectors. Our next type is stony iron. They're very common, but more difficult to find. Why would that be? Because they look like typical Earth rocks. The next type is called chondrite. It is the most primitive due to its undifferentiation. It's also the most common. Each of these types will describe not only the objects that reach the ground, but the parent bodies of meteoroids as well. We'll see this more in the individual sections on asteroids and comets. If meteors are debris left over from the solar system formation, then there's a lot of them out there. So what is the risk to Earth? Or are we even at risk? Studies show that 100 tons of material falls to Earth each day. Most is dust and rubble. It is harmless and doesn't reach the ground. It burns up by friction with the atmosphere. On average, 2 basketball-sized objects hit somewhere on Earth per day. This size is likely to stay intact to reach the ground, but depending upon its density, it may or may not break up. A car-sized object hits about every 2 weeks. Objects about 100 feet in diameter are much more likely to hit the ground, regardless of density. The smaller ones will typically burn up before reaching the ground. We know from these numbers that lots of things must fall to Earth. We often find small meteorites. But the moon is full of large craters. And the Earth is more massive, so it must attract more objects. So it seems like we are just protected, right? Well, not exactly. There is plenty of evidence of impacts on Earth. Here is a map of all accepted impact craters. Why are there so few? The Earth is vain. It covers blemishes with wind erosion, plate tectonics, and volcanic eruptions, just to name a few. Here's some famous impact craters throughout history. Tunguska in 1908. This one was unique in that it left no crater, but lots of damage and eyewitnesses. It was thought to be a comet that exploded before it reached the ground. Thus, no crater was created. Then there's Meteor Crater in Arizona, an impact crater about 3/4 of a mile across and 600 feet deep. To show the scale, downtown Seattle would easily fit inside. The crater was created in part by this, the largest fragment of the impactor, thought to be 150 feet in diameter. This impact crater threw up so much debris, it created a mountain range as viewed from a distance. This is the same concept as the lunar mountains, also created by impact craters. And the infamous Chicxulub crater, the dinosaur killer, the impactor that killed 75% of life on Earth. The impact crater is mostly underwater, so it went undiscovered until the whole area could be seen, which revealed the full impact signature. Can we be expecting the big one again anytime soon? Let's look at some statistics. A city killer impactor, 1,000 feet wide, occurs about every 50 years. Fortunately, most occur over the 2/3 of the Earth that is water, or in uninhabited regions. A global climate changer, up to 1 kilometer in size, occurs about every 200 million years. The Chicxulub crater was 65 million years ago. A mass extinction event is caused by a 10-kilometer or larger impactor. It happens about every 100 to 200 million years. With the dinosaur impactor occurring about 65 million years ago, we are uncomfortably close to the statistical range. Let's visualize how big the dinosaur killer object really was. The 6.2-kilometer object is seen here, superimposed on top of New York City. Airplanes would barely fly over the outer edge when at cruising altitude. Let's bring it back to some good news. The chances of dying by impact are long, 1 in 200,000. But don't tell that to the citizens of Chelyabinsk, Russia in 2013. An unwelcome visitor came to their town. The damage was extensive, some from impact shock, some from the sonic boom as it flew overhead. Windows were blown out of buildings. Some buildings crumbled into the streets. And damage occurred to homes as well as offices. So far, there have been no confirmed human deaths by impact. Ann Hodges, though, did get a bruise. A pretty bad one. Ruth Hamilton lost some sleep when a meteor crashed through her ceiling at 11:35 p.m. and landed on top of her face. Fortunately, although the largest piece landed on her pillow next to her head, only some light debris landed on her face. She reports that she didn't sleep the rest of the night. Michelle Knapp's car could be considered a casualty, though she sold the 26-pound meteorite for $69,000 and her car for an additional $10,000. She seems to have come out ahead on that deal. Another type of meteor that is no threat to the ground is referred to as a meteor shower. Meteor showers occur when the Earth passes through material left behind from comets as they pass close to the Sun. They take the name from the constellation that the shower appears to radiate from. This shower is called the Leonid meteor shower, and its radiant is from the constellation Leo. Because the comet's debris is in orbit, we can easily predict when we will pass through it. Here is a sample schedule of popular meteor showers. Predictions often include the rate of visible streaks and the best time for viewing. The best time for viewing is almost always in the local early hours, since Earth is moving into the debris path. Fortunately, though we may seem to be due for a major impact event, we now have the technology to track the larger threats. We don't see any that pose a significant threat in the predictable future. As we will see when we look more closely at asteroids and comets, though, they can be unpredictable.
Wow, this new Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. Is it the best Coke ever?
No!
Yes!
No!
Yes!
No!
Yes!
Okay, I'm gonna try first.
Yes! I need to try it first.
Well, guys, that asteroid is going to destroy the Earth.
There's only one thing left to do. And here we go!
It's the sure sign of a good time. The just right taste of Bud Light. Here we go.
We're saved.